Hello, good afternoon. 저는 Juan Madera. That's about 50% of all my Korean. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to speak to you. I will introduce myself very briefly. I'm originally from Spain. I studied mathematics in the University of Granada. I never thought that mathematics would be useful in the technology, in IT, but actually big data is one of the areas where actually many of the mathematicians these days are working, so I'm very happy about that. I worked for a number of years in the US for Hewlett-Packard, and then I joined Accenture in the UK. I worked for our London practice for about 8 years. And a couple of years ago, they asked me to join or to help our Asia practice, and I came to Seoul. So I'm very honored to be here, and I'm learning lots of things. So let's talk about big data. Let's talk about analytics, and let's talk about cloud. The main purpose of this session, this is not a technology session. This is not a technical session. I know you guys are developers and very high-skilled technical project managers. I'm very impressed with the quality of technical resources everywhere I work in Korea. But this session is about what I see in the marketplace, what I see businesses are interested in, and how they are leveraging technologies to gain advantages and to actually trying to increase the revenue or to increase the loyalty of the customers or to do something meaningful from a business perspective. And I also want to give you my point of view on how you can use your skills in investing your time to work in some of these technologies, because I think some of them have really good potential in the next few years. Okay, so that is the purpose of this session. I hope you find it interesting. The agenda is how to apply big data and analytics, what is the marketplace, some of the companies that are setting the trends, and I'm going to also explain to you some use cases. Right, so four characteristics of big data and analytics. Number one, resistance is futile, right? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So it's not one of these trends that is going to disappear. And the number one reason is because businesses are realizing that they have the potential to make money out of it. Businesses don't like technology just for the sake of technology. They like technology when they can make money out of it. Competitive advantage, that's what they are after. Okay? We will talk about how they can use big data, they can use the cloud and analytics to gain that competitive advantage. No one size fits all. Today there is no a standard in the marketplace that you can say, oh, we buy this solution and this solution is going to meet all our needs. There is a number of players, there is a number of software vendors, hardware vendors, they are trying to approach the big data problem in a slightly different way, and that gives opportunities to technical people to participate in integration projects, in design projects, in creating businesses, right? So I think that's one reason why you should be interested in this topic. And finally, it's different. Why big data analytics is different? Well, the main reason is because it's not a technical problem. It's an area where the business and IT definitely need to work together to develop the right solution and to find a solution to the business problems. And this is where many of our customers are struggling, for example, because the business people don't know anything about technology, and the technology people don't speak enough to the business people. So it is important to understand that that dialogue, that communication between business and IT is key for the success of any technology. One of the reasons why big data is important, the amount of unstructured data coming from different channels for example, from the web, from mobility, from video channels, that is coming to the enterprise without their control. They are coming through social media or any other media, is massive. So big corporations don't know what to do with this data. The reality is that the capability to analyze this data is very, very small. So any company that is able to take advantage of that data, they definitely build a capability that they can use to engage better with the customers. This is a Wordle that we created after a discussion with Credit Suisse. So Credit Suisse is a bank based in Switzerland. We had a workshop with them because they were interested in talking about big data and analytics. We found that they were very, very knowledgeable, and they knew what all these terms meant, but they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to leverage it. So I'm going to give you 3 examples of how, for example, a bank, in this particular case, this is a real project that is happening in Scotland for RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland. And these are 3 use cases that they are building in order to leverage big data. First one is the case of this lady, Jane, I think is her name. She's got a promotion, which is great news, right? So now she is starting to make a little bit more money. So her paycheck is high, is bigger, right? Good news, good for her. She's a very intelligent woman. So, so the bank wants to be able to realize that as soon as it happens. Okay, before they didn't have the capability. So they want to establish a correlation of that data, and they want to link that data to potential offerings that they have. So for example, they may want to offer an investment proposition for her. Okay? So they link that to a specific offerings, and they go to her with a proposition. And once she accepts the proposition, for example, she is going to invest in her, I don't know, savings for something for her future. They want to monitor how she is talking about it, how she is using social media to talk about it, because they want to learn for that in order to increase the loyalty of that customer to this particular bank. Okay? This is one example. Another example is a mobile application developed by a bank where they profile the usage consumption, the normal places where a individual, a guy, normally shops. So they identify that he buys in a given kind of shops, and he's driving around one area where other people with the same profile also likes to buy. For example, he likes to buy wine in other areas. He's driving through another area, and they tell him through his phone that he should stop and he should buy wine in a new store that he doesn't know, right? So why is this useful for the bank? Because he will find that application useful, and he will realize that the bank is not only a place where he can put his money, it's also a place where he can get services that he can use, right? So it will increase also the chances that he will continue to make business with the bank, okay? Another example, this particular case is Jim, right? Jim has got a new girlfriend. So he changes his patterns. He doesn't go to McDonald's anymore. He starts going to a more expensive romantic restaurants. So the bank realized that information. The bank realized as well that after 6 months of this change of behavior, many people start looking for houses because they want to think about marriage and they want to start thinking about buying a house in a nice area. So they really have a really good opportunity for the mortgage business, right? So I don't want to expand a lot on these cases, but I just want to give you a flavor of how big data can actually be used in the marketplace. I think I missed one slide. Ah, there you go. So these are some examples of the competitive advantage that businesses can get of this particular technology. And that's why I think that it's relevant to you guys, because many of you are developing your skills. You are becoming, experts in many technology areas, like, for example, integration, or, for example, databases. And you can use your skills with a business focus, and I think this is particularly good. So let's come back to the foundation, right? So what is big data analytics, and what is different from what happened before? Many companies before had what they call BI, right? Business intelligence. Business intelligence focused on the capability to analyze data that came from within the enterprise. For example, analyze data from the financial statements, or analyze data from the ERP, or data from the CRM systems, okay? And what we call big data analytics is the combination of big data technologies with the analytics that focus on analyzing data that comes from inside the enterprise, like the ERP, but also from outside the enterprise. For example, social media. Does it make sense? Yes? No? Yeah, some people say yes. That's good. Right. So why is this more complex? It's not only because big data has big volume. Volume is just one of the dimensions. Volume is easy to deal with. You just buy bigger machines, and then you buy big databases, and then you are sorted. You can deal with volume. But what corporations and businesses are struggling with is with variety of data, and velocity, because social media, the web is changing too quickly. So by the time that they develop a report in the old way, the data source is obsolete, so they need to create another one. Okay? So we've spoken about what big data is and why it's important for businesses. Why it's important for young people and professionals in the IT space. I think, in my opinion, there is going to be a wave of new jobs in the next 10 years. So, for example, statisticians, mathematicians, physicians are going to be working with IT people in developing models that they can use to create business value from. Okay? So it's not only about knowing technology, it's about knowing technology, analyzing data, and coming up with business propositions or ideas. Right, so we've spoken about people. What about the technology trends? What about the tools that are enabling this change of culture? So I want to give you one example. Hadoop, well, first of all, MapReduce, and then Hadoop. MapReduce was a framework developed by Google to be able to analyze data by multiple sources in a parallel way. Okay? So rather than before, in the BI world, it was all about having big machines with lots of memory. Google started to have hundreds of small machines analyzing data at the same time. This is very important because it means that the business of analyzing data became a lot cheaper. Okay? I remember it was about 10 years ago. I was involved in an SAP project, and we built one BI solution. I remember that all the machines needed to have 128 gigabytes of memory. Otherwise, it was worthless, right? Which means that the client had to invest a huge amount of money just in hardware. What these technologies are enabling is to create a democracy of analyzing the data. Pretty much anybody can analyze data these days, okay? So that's why it's so important. Second thing is they did it in the cloud. So they did it based on open source, and they did it in standards that anybody can use. So any developing company can leverage these assets, these frameworks, in order to do their own solution where they feel comfortable or where they know a lot about that special market. So we're going to be talking about examples of companies that are applying this technology to create young startups that are being successful. So there are many different kinds of vendors. I want to give you my perspective of these vendors. If we start from the bottom up, the distributed in-memory layer, this is the traditional ones, right? This is focused on the infrastructure. This is where we have the SAP, the Oracles. We also have optimized appliances with Teradata and so on, right? So this is the old world, which is still important because it still happens, and it's important to be able to compute information from SAP, for example. But now as we move up, there are different layers of different players that are providing solutions on the distributed world. Okay, I'm sure you are familiar with Cloudera or with Hadoop, as I mentioned, or Pentaho, right? So these are the new solutions that need to be combined with the old world, and I'll explain a little bit more about this. So in summary, we have the old big players, software players, focus on analyzing data from a vertical way, or with a vertical in-memory capability. And then we have the new ones that focus on horizontal, cloud-oriented ways. And they focus, the big data players, they focus on analyzing data from outside the enterprise, the traditional ones from inside the enterprise. The combination of the two is probably the most powerful solution. So I will give you an example of a company that is investing in both ways. SAS, right? SAS traditionally has been the number one player in BI. So they have the traditional in-memory solution, which is able to analyze big databases. And they are also investing in having a solution that is going to analyze data from the web. So SAS is investing for that integration and is becoming very successful. Traditionally, if you don't have a solution like that, what is going to happen is that companies, in terms of making any business report or analyzing data from different sources, they will need to buy different pieces of software and hire different skills in order to integrate ERP with CRM, with social media, with the web, and then create reports that are meaningful to the business people. Okay? At the moment, this means that this is a great opportunity for technical people. You know, integration specialists, database specialists, BI specialists, they need to work together to make this happen. Okay? So it's a very good opportunity. I mentioned about this earlier, right? There is all the people that believe that the job that is going to be very successful in the next few years is going to be the job of the statisticians. So people that is able to understand data and understand the correlation of data. When I was in university almost 20 years ago or 15 years ago, I never thought that the Markov chains were of any use. Actually, I used to miss many classes because I thought it was the most boring thing ever. I was reading a paper from Oracle the other day, and I realized that the foundation of the big data computing analysis is based on Markov chains, which is a boring analytical way of looking at statistics and probability. So I totally agree with this trend. I think there is going to be a very, very interesting market for this kind of people. Right. If you're working on a startup, or if you are thinking in developing offerings for your company, and you have a small and medium business, and then you want to offer businesses to SK Planet or any other company like that, you may want to check these guys. I just got a selection of 4 companies with less than 200 employees that they are really being successful in the big data and analytics and cloud. So what they're doing, for example, Angos, they are developing frameworks to analyze specific data for specific customers. So for example, if your company is very good in the financial business and you also have technical skills, you can use all the technologies that we mentioned earlier to create a specific frameworks, specific reports, specific feeds, benchmark data, and combine all that into a business process as a service. So effectively what it means is that you can go to a bank or a financial institution and we can say, hey, we can analyze your data for you. And we can give you intelligence that you don't have to spend millions in hardware. And you can pay me by the number of reports that your people read, for example. Right? So these are new ways to make money, new ways to leverage technology. Right? So, for example, Angos focus on banking and high tech. Alteryx focus more on, they have a solution that is very clever for restaurants, which you can check as well. I think they have a demo on the website. Cloud Trigger, they focus on geographical intelligence. You can guess what geographical intelligence is, right? For example, we spoke about the case where one guy was using a mobile application. He was driving through a new area, and they could advise to him that based on his location, he could potentially buy a new wine shop, right? A new wine store. So they specialize in that kind of technology. And Nimbula is also very interesting because what Nimbula does is enable people, enable businesses to offer big data services to third parties. So it's like a business to enable business, okay? So these are examples of small companies that don't require a huge amount of investment, that don't require a huge amount of people, and they are able to leverage this opportunity. So I know Korean people, I know Korean developers, they are very intelligent, they are extremely capable, they work really hard. So some of you guys may be interested in checking these kinds of things and exploring your own ways. Right, so I'm 12 minutes away from the end. I want to give you at least 5 minutes for questions. So I'm going to just finalize with 3 use cases, and these are real projects where Accenture is working on big data. Just to give you an example of what the market is demanding these days. The first case is a large storage vendor based in the US. As you can imagine, the amount of data that these guys manage is insane. They expect to be able to host 2 petabytes in 2015. I just cannot even imagine what 2 petabytes is. But they had serious problems because the business is data, and they were having problems, for example, in managing Oracle databases and in managing data for the third parties. It was very, very costly for them. So they were not making a lot of money. So what they started to investigate is how they could leverage the analysis of data from big data type of vendors. And they also leverage how to use the cloud to make the management of data and databases much more cost effective. So for example, they did an internal exercise of tiering the data, identifying which data is of each type, which data is irrelevant. They clean a lot of data as well. And they implemented a few solutions, like for example, Hadoop or Pentaho. And they were able to achieve 2 things. The first thing is save money in the way that they manage data. But the most important one is that they develop the capability to offer business data as a service. So they created an offering out of these capabilities that now they market in the marketplace. They are able to offer to the customers. So they are not only saving money, but they are also winning money or increasing the revenue by managing data. Okay? So it's a great success story for them. The second one is a global retailer. This is a client that we've had for years in the UK. I think it's the number two retailer in the UK. So effectively, the problem that they had is that they were not able to get data from all the different stores and synchronize it in one single place and make decisions. So effectively, every store was making their own decisions. They couldn't make decisions holistically. So they had an integration problem. They had an integration issue with having data from all the different stores located throughout the country and put it into one single place and then be able to create reports. So again, they use technologies that are based on the cloud, based on big data, to be able to integrate all that amount of data into one standard way and then be able to generate reports. So the business people could look at the data and develop new offerings or new campaigns, or, for example, they were able to close a few stores because they thought that there was a best way to distribute their stores across a regional area. So that's another one. And then finally, this is a large insurance company. They also had an integration problem. In order to integrate data from the back end to any reporting, they had to use a lot of ETL. I'm sure some of you have seen this problem before. Using ETL can be very expensive and not very efficient. So again, in a similar way, they leveraged integration capabilities to reduce the cost of creating reports and make it much more agile. Okay, so the key lesson learned is that there is a much more cost-effective way of managing data. There is a new way of thinking about data and analytics and BI. There is an opportunity for technical people to develop skills and also to develop businesses. So there is still a big market opportunity out there that I think it should be leveraged. And then I will highlight the 4 points that I said at the beginning. Resistance is futile, so it's going to happen, right? Businesses are looking for a competitive advantage. You always need to think about how to apply the technology in the advantage of the business. And a third thing is that this is a different trend because it requires the combination of technical skills with mathematical skills or analytical skills with business skills. So that's why it's promising, but also it's challenging, it's difficult.